So it is 9 o'clock.
My phone call.
We will call this meeting to order. And we are here to interview the applicant for ambulance director. So if you want to have a closed session, you need to ask for that. Otherwise, we'll go open.
I think I'm okay open. Normally I would, if it was a personnel matter, I'd probably go closed, but for this, I
Alright.
understand people want to know.
All right, that's fine. All right, morning, and so Dr. Marino, Jack and I talked with you a while back, and we, as we just said, he was out in Montana, and so he does a lot of training, we figured out, and so he had been traveling quite a bit the last couple of weeks. So we're glad that you're able to meet with us. And Susie, do you wanna?
I think I get a start.
She does.
Well, hey, Ryan, thanks for coming.
I'm glad to be
How
here.
was your drive here?
It's good. Not unfamiliar with this area.
How long did it take?
Going straight to Fairfield down by Mount Pleasant, a better part of 3 hours. Good.
That's a
Is what it is.
walk in the park. Hey, well, tell me about yourself.
Well, I have always lived in Iowa. I've been involved in various aspects of the fire service throughout Iowa, several different departments since about 2007. I got my first EMT certification in 2008, and both of those have just continued to snowball and snowball and snowball into what you see in my resume now of if I have an opportunity to take a class, I take a class.
Sure.
But I was with a fire-based ambulance service over in central Iowa for a while. We were actually looking at becoming a provisional ALS service. So I went through and I went and did my advanced EMT course, thinking, okay, well, that's more than I can do as an EMT, but wasn't the commitment of paramedic. And then 2 years later, I found myself in paramedic school. Completed that in 2019. My life took a bit of a turn. I thought I was going full-time paramedic route, and then I got offered the fire marshal position at UNI. I was up there for, I think, 2.5, 3 years before it got to be, this isn't good. I don't like this. I like the work, just the environment was not the best. Then I moved over to NICC, and I've been instructing around the country. I think I've taught in 8 states this year already. Last year I taught in 2021. So I get around. I really enjoy the teaching, but the road time's getting to be a little much. 2.5 weeks out of a month, working 12, 16-hour days every day gets to be much. So I saw this opening. I like this area. I've got some people I know down here. So I was like, well, hey, that might fit the boat. So here I am.
Well, thank you very much for that. Hey, how would you describe how you would handle any discrepancies or any arguments among coworkers or folks who work underneath you?
I think the first thing is communication. We need to sit down, and if it's within 2 employees, we need to sit down and get both sides of the story and figure out, okay, because everyone sees it from their perspective, what really happened, and talk things out. Minor things. It's hey, we talk about it. Let's not do that again. Move on. If we have repeated issues, then obviously we have to move up to potentially written or higher disciplinary action. But I think a lot of things in my experience are based on miscommunication. Somebody misunderstands something. So if we can at least get the people together, let's talk this out, find a mutual neutral zone and move on from there and be better for it, hopefully.
To follow up with that, how would you handle underperforming individuals?
I think first thing, very, very similar to the communication, is find out what's going on. We all have lives outside of work. Is there something going on? I can use myself as an example. My dad passed away the December before last, and I went to work that day because I didn't know where else to go. I needed something to think about, but obviously my performance that day was not good. But my boss was very understanding. He's like, hey, if you need to leave. I'm like, oh, I need something. I need to focus on something. So understanding that people have lives, if there's something outside of work that's impacting their work, we may not be able to fix that for them, but we can certainly understand, try to work with them on that. If it's something other than that, then we might need to come up with some type of a train of thought derailed, but a performance plan of how do we improve, how do we get better with this, and then we'll recheck at certain periods of time.
You know, I know this next question is kind of difficult, but could you tell me about a time when you had to terminate an employee?
I have thankfully never had to do that. I've known people that have. And I do firmly believe that there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. I've had some people that I've known that there was no warning, no nothing. It was, they got called in the office and you're done. And I was kind of like, well, wait, what was I doing something wrong? And they never get an answer. That to me is not the right way to do it. If we have cause to terminate somebody, I feel at least we owe them an explanation as to what's going on. Now, I would believe if we ever got to that point, there was precursors leading up to it. But I've always tried to give people the benefit of the doubt. Hey, you did this. We can't accept that. Unfortunately, your time here is done. But in the future, work, that's something for you to work on or whatever. Try not to just leave them out in the cold as best as we can. Even if we've had differences, it's still a person. They still have a future ahead of them.
And we have resources here. I mean, we have a process internally in the county, and our HR consultant, Jack, who you met on the Zoom, and then our county attorney, depending what the situation is.
Tell me about your management style. Don't say Machiavellian.
I have always kind of been a lead by example kind of a person. I've never asked anybody to do anything that I would not do. I guess maybe with the exception of heights, I'm not crazy about. I'll do heights, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. It's like, if you want to do that, go right ahead. But I know it's safe, so we're gonna.
So you'll hold the bottom of the ladder for him.
Yes. Hey, I'm good at. I'm appropriately sized for that kind of work. I've had my fair share of examples of what not to do from leadership. I have a real problem with the do as I say, not as I do kind of a mentality. I tell you, you can't do that, but I'm going to do that. You ignore me, what I'm doing. I don't do that. It just doesn't work for me. It creates a lot of mistrust and anxiety in a department of, wait a minute, you're yelling at me, but you're doing what's going on here. That's not a good way to do it. I use an example, the same department I was on over in central Iowa. We'd received a grain rescue tube and some equipment through a Farm Bureau grant.
That fly is really bothering me.
They love me. I don't know. I must have sweet blood. They come after me.
We have a fly buzzing around.
So I arranged to get a training for the equipment, because we got the equipment, none of us know how to use it. What's this about? So everyone was really nervous because nobody had ever seen it, nobody had ever done it. I said, no, I'm gonna be the first one sunk in this grain. You're gonna rescue me first, because I'm gonna show you there's nothing to worry about. This is a controlled environment, and I was the first one in the tank. That's kind of my philosophy. It's just a matter of I try to set the example. I mean, we all have faults, we all make mistakes, but I try to set the example the best I can. To me, leadership is a responsibility to do more, not an excuse to do less. It's my job is to make sure my people can do their job.
Thank you for that. You've got a lot of experience. What experience do you have? What skills do you have that would match with this job, this opening?
Right back to my central Iowa department. I was actually ranked as a lieutenant. I was the training officer. Started out with fire and quickly rolled into I was in charge of both fire and EMS, coordinating training, tracking records, which then also led to, I was working a night shift job at the time, so I was kind of the day EMT 6 days out of 7. So I was around, I was doing stuff. So then it became, well, hey, Brian, we need you to help with billing. We need you to help with the continuous quality improvement stuff. And we know Brian will do it, so Brian's gonna get it. So it just got to be kind of doing a little bit of everything. I can't say I have a ton of experience managing an ambulance, but I know myself well enough to know that I'm a fast learner, and I've rarely failed when I challenge myself.
You know, Brian, I think you have a lot of transferable skills.
I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, so I agree that you might be able to do well with that. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, you're doing fine. I'll follow up.
I'm not gonna say anything bad, okay? Well, tell me, I shouldn't ask this, but you have a family, I'm sure.
Oh, actually, I am pretty much unattached right now. I have actually been seeing a girl that lives up by Brighton for about the last 3 years, which is why I'm no stranger to this area, because
Yeah, I'm
been
from
down here.
Pleasant Plain.
Okay, well, that's actually where she's from. Most people don't know where that is, so I just go to Brighton, but
Yeah,
so
well, that's nice.
that's
Nice.
one of,
That's why they have Brighton addresses,
yeah,
because nobody knows where Pleasant
Because we
Plain is.
closed the post office.
that's one of the kind of, I would call it the driving reasons why I've been trying to find a career down in this area, is her family lives all down here, and I, don't want to get into too personal, but
No, it's okay.
I don't want to have to pull her away from her family if I can avoid it. It's easier for me to move and adjust than it would be for her.
That's very commendable. Anyway, do you have any questions for us?
Not right off the top of my head.
Dr. Marino, do you have any questions, or Jeff?
Yeah, could you maybe, we talked about this a little bit in the closed interview, but you've done a lot of purchasing through grants, and that sort of thing. Could you tell us a little bit about your background there? Like, you look like you know how to find some funding and write grants.
I will freely admit that finding grants for a volunteer fire department is generally much easier than a paid ambulance service. Not to say there's not
Mhm.
money out there.
Right.
I kind of fell into the grant stuff. I wouldn't call it by accident. It was just, hey, there was an and I don't even remember what my first grant was, to be honest with you, but it was like, hey, I mean, it might have been the Mission Lifeline grant, actually, which got us a new 12-lead monitor for our ambulance, but there was an opportunity, and I don't claim to be the world's best writer, but I'm probably better than quite a few folks. So I was able to come up with, I'm gonna call it a spiel we got our grant. And that turned into me and a buddy of mine at the time. We, hey, well, there's this grant, and there's this grant, and there's this grant. There was one out of Story County. It was their community foundation. Got us a grant for new pagers. I managed to get in the AFG Assistance Firefighter grant, which is the big federal one.
Yeah.
I got that on my first try, which I was shocked. But we replaced all our SCBAs for the department, which they were all out of date. It just got to be, I got to be on a roll with that, and it was just kind of one after another. I didn't get everyone I applied to, obviously, but I think I probably had the most luck I'll ever probably have, but it tends to be, if there's an opportunity there, I'm all for trying to take it.
You have, you've got a lot of experience in teaching these different classes, combine and auger extrication, agricultural trauma, anatomy of disaster. You got a whole bunch of stuff on there. Which of those was your favorite to instruct?
That's a tough one. I guess you can see I have some of those that I've taught multiple times. I have to say I enjoyed those more than the ones I did kind of a one-off. It kind of depends. I did a mental health presentation several times based on some experiences I had, hoping that my story could help other folks. And that I felt like it kind of ran its course. I really enjoyed that because I had more than one person who came up and, oh my God, what you talked about, I felt that. So that one was very personal to me. I enjoy my anatomy of a disaster one, which is a fire-based one, just trying to get firefighters thinking about the realities of how modern homes are being built, which is kind of scary if you look at it from a firefighter's perspective. And then with the modern home furnishings, how those are combining into a worst case scenario for our firefighters, and just trying to get people to think. And I'd like to think most of my classes, that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm going to give you a base of knowledge. You have to figure out how to apply it, but I want to get you thinking about it.
Looks like you've got a lot of kind of things that you've taught that would be very applicable to rural EMS also. Manure and confined space rescue, your extrication classes, anhydrous ammonia response. I mean, all of that looks like it would be very applicable to rural Iowa. What else do you think makes you kind of well suited to being a head of a rural EMS service?
I should have probably anticipated that question, but I guess I would say, you know, beyond what's in my resume, I've been a self-starter a lot of my time. The ambulance service I was on in Huxley it probably wasn't as new as Jefferson County's is, but same thing. It was in its, I'm going to call it its infancy stage. We were a BLS transport service, and I wasn't going in there to change things or step on toes or anything like that necessarily, but I saw this and hey, that we can improve this. And you know, prime example was we had, I obviously don't have to tell you doctor, about the stock of medical supplies we had sitting on the shelf, but they were just wooden 2x4 shelves with covered with a sheet. And
Yeah.
Went back and I pulled something out of a box and it's covered in dust and cobwebs. And like, well, we can't use that. And between me and two of the other department members, we spent our own money. We bought some nice, I think they were Craftsman metal cabinets that we could lock and we could put all of our stuff in, and that way it was contained and the bugs and the mice couldn't get at it. Because that one, for example, just blew my mind. Is I wouldn't let you treat any of my family with that equipment if I saw it like that. B, we're throwing money away, which didn't make any sense. So I think I have a very logical mind, which is a blessing and a curse. But being able to take the step back and look at the big picture, and we have room for improvement here. Hey, we're doing great here. How do we get better with this? Or how do we take this passion that you guys have for this and apply it to something else? Very, very much just I guess I would say I have a critical eye for, hey, this isn't working, this is working. Why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing this kind of stuff? It comes very natural to me, I guess.
Good answer. And we also talked a little bit in your kind of that preliminary when we met the first time. And I liked you know, what you had to say, and I think I'd like everybody to hear. We talked about, you know, how do you preserve personal boundaries? How do you separate, you know, work from personal when you are in your role? How do you maintain those boundaries?
Try to remember my answer so they get the same explanation you guys did the other day. I fully understand in a position like this, there has to be professional distance. It's one thing to be friendly. It's another to be friends, for lack of a better way to phrase it, where we're out drinking after work and that kind of stuff that quickly gets into what I see as a conflict of interest. If we're buddy outside of here, I'm just human nature. I'm less likely to want to call you on the carpet for something I know you did. And that gets to be a very slippery slope that creates a lot of animosity towards each other in the department. So I've always felt that you have to maintain a little bit of distance. I've I've had plenty of coworkers that we were good friends outside of work, but we never hung out with the boss, or, vice versa. They're just, when you're leading people, you have to be fair to everybody. And you can't do that if I'm really good friends with you and I'm not friends with you. It just, personal biases get in the way no matter how hard you try to not let them.
Agreed. Okay, fantastic. And then did you have any intent really on what are you planning to do if you're offered this job? Are you planning to continue your role in fire, or what is your thoughts on how that will be a part of your life going forward?
I still have the fire bug, and they talk about fire and EMS personnel generally hit a burnout at 7 years. I made it past that. I'm not saying I didn't hit a burnout stage, but I moved past it. That's actually when I went to paramedic school. I would eventually like to be back involved in a fire department somewhere, but I definitely know that this is the prior, especially getting to know the Jefferson County, the systems in place, the processes, policies and whatnot. That's my priority, is getting to know that, getting settled in, and then down the road, if the opportunity is available to go volunteer somewhere, I'd love to do that.
Great, thank you. I'm good.
Okay, Jack, do you have any questions?
I do have a few. Good morning, Brian. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm gonna ask you some questions that I had reiterate that I had asked you in the initial interview, just for the purpose of the other two supervisors, everybody in the room getting to hear your answer again, okay?
Sure.
So first off is that how long have you been or served in a supervisory position?
For that, it's been kind of off and on, different jobs. Like I say, I was the training officer lieutenant position, which I oversaw the training and record keeping of 30 or 35 personnel. By default, being a ranked officer meant if I was the ranking officer on scene, it was my scene until I had somebody of a higher rank that was able to come relieve me. Sometimes that happened, sometimes it didn't. When I was the fire marshal at UNI, I had to oversee quite a few people in terms of fire safety and fire planning. I'm not going to say they worked under me necessarily, but it was kind of I was the subject matter expert for the university, so it was my job to coach and teach and educate people about, hey, we need to look at doing this. We aren't doing this, and we should be, that kind of stuff. So off and on, I've had a fair amount of experience. I hate sounding like I'm tooting my own horn, but I'm kind of a outside the work environment. I wouldn't say I'm a type A personality. I kind of just like to be on my own. When I'm at work, it's kind of I'm willing to take charge when you need to take charge kind of a person. And some of that just ends up being by default if you're a ranking officer on scene, or I had joined the fire department over by Cedar Falls when I was the fire marshal there, and we were out at a structure fire in the middle of winter, and I was on the back side of the house with some people from another department, and it was plainly obvious that these guys were pretty new and they didn't really know what they were doing, and it was just an automatic step in. Hey guys, look at this, try this. Hey, let's look at this and do whatever we need to do. It comes naturally to me. I don't know if my dad instilled that in me or what, but it's always been very natural. I know my dad used to have a phrase of lead, follow, or get out of the way. And generally I get nervous following people sometimes, because if they can lead you right off a cliff. And I'm not much of a get out of the way if it's, if I'm involved in it, there's really not a get out of the way. It's we got to go, and here's how we're going to do it, kind of a mentality.
Okay. There's a lot of fire service certification and training on your resume. Matter of fact, I count about 14 of them. And so are you still doing fire service training for the fire service in Iowa?
As I'm able, most of what I've done is go help at test sites when they're testing out firefighter 1, firefighter 2, the other certifications. It's kind of hit or miss whenever, you know, what happens is the training bureau will send out a notice that, hey, we need TS1s, which is the training specialist ones for this exam site, and we have this many students testing and this, and this. And essentially, if you're able to help, they'd like you to help. But they understand people have lives and careers outside of what that is, being that's just kind of an as needed basis. But I do enjoy doing that because I see it not just as an opportunity to be a proctor for an exam, but I've met some really good folks, and I feel like that they were very much minded like I am, in the sense that yes, we're testing, but we can also be mentoring. So it's okay, you didn't fail this, but here's some thoughts on it. Here's some ways you could improve, work on your training kind of a stuff. I had a kid at one training site, he was 80 pounds soaking wet. And for him to try to raise up an extension ladder and get it into place was tough for him. By all accounts, I probably could have failed him, but that wasn't going to teach him anything. So it was, okay, I'm going to make sure you're doing this, but I'm going to be back here spotting you because I don't want this crashing down on you. And then we talked it over. He had the technique. To me, I couldn't fail him because he doesn't have the upper body strength. That just doesn't make sense. But it was an opportunity to coach and say, hey, go back to your department, find somebody who likes doing ladder stuff, and just work with them a little bit. So as much as I'm on the road, I don't get to do it as much as I would like to, but I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. And I think mostly for the mentoring aspect. I know when I began in the fire service, what it felt like being the new guy. You didn't know what you were doing, you didn't know where anything was, and people were yelling at you to do this and this and this, and it's like, no, nobody's told me how to do that. I didn't like that feeling, so that was actually the initial reason I went and got my instructor one, was because if I could make it to where some new firefighter wasn't feeling what I felt, then I'm doing good.
Okay. Well, my next question area is that I think you answered some of it with your response to Dr. Marino about volunteer firefighting and your interest in that and so forth. So here's my question. So if that Jefferson County offered you the ambulance director position and they were asked you to commit 100% of your time to that position, would that be a problem?
I would have to think long and hard. I really do enjoy doing the fire service stuff, but if I needed to commit to one job, I would give it very serious consideration. It would not be an easy decision.
If 100% of the time committed to the ambulance director job was requiring you to give up the fire service training and to not function as a volunteer firefighter, would that be a deal breaker for you?
I don't know that it would be a deal breaker, but it would definitely give me some pause. Again, I would have to think of it. I've dedicated a good portion of my life to doing fire service stuff, and that would be pretty hard to walk away from. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker, but I would have to stop and think.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Going through your resume, and Jack alluded to it, as did Dr. Marino. You have extensive fire experience in many different capacities and venues. I want to know about your paramedic experience. How many 911 years have you had? Have you worked in a 911 environment? I know you said that you were in Huxley or whatever, that it was a BLS transfer. We run 2 full crews, 24 hours a day. Last month, we had 172 calls. And I guess inclusive of that would be your ability to schedule the crews, don't know how much, you talked about supplies as far as what you observed in that one location. But the ordering of supplies, working with, image trend, working with building companies, your experience in that area, maintenance of the rigs. We have 3 rigs. One that we use primarily for 911 calls because it is a gas rig, so it's a little cheaper on fuel to run our diesels when we do transfers. So there's kind of a full load there, but I'm at the beginning, I'm interested to know your paramedic level service, the amount of years that you had it. Did you do 911? And I'll follow up from there.
So I got on my paramedic and then I ended up moving to Cedar Falls. I joined Jessup Ambulance Service and I was trying to, like, I'd go sit out at their station on the weekends kind of a thing. And I think I was one of 2 or 3 paramedics they had that helped them out. I left that organization because I saw deficiencies that, being one of the few paramedics, didn't sit well with me, because if they got called on the carpet, the first person they're going to come to is the paramedics, because a lot of it involved accountability for the medications and the drugs and stuff, and them not being secured like they are supposed to be. And I'm just like, I can't be a part of this. I'm not going to let you take me down with you. I then joined the Hudson Fire Department. They ran an ALS, excuse me, an ALS ambulance out of the fire department there. And that was purely a respond as you're able kind of a thing. So I ran 911 with them for a couple of years. I don't remember exactly how many off the top of my head, but pretty decent service. And after that, most of my paramedic experience with the college has been, they keep using me for evaluation and teaching classes.
So I gotta admit, first off, I guess, what is your understanding of this position that you submitted a resume for? By that, I mean, we require, let me qualify this so you know where I'm coming from, because I don't want to blindside you. So paramedics, as I'm sure you're well aware of, is a premium. And finding paramedics is difficult. And so we are surrounded by multiple public ambulance services, either hospital-based or county-based or whatever, with the exception of one. Walpole County is a private hospital, the rest are county-based hospitals. And so we compete for personnel. And some of those personnel that we have work in other locations, which traditionally, paramedics in particular, but EMTs as well, that's not an uncommon theme. So scheduling sometimes can be an issue. I don't know if you were aware or understood that part of your requirement would be to work a truck. Weekends, holidays, nights, it's not 5 days a week. Jack did mention the 100% commitment, especially with I don't know if fledgling is the right word I want to use, but certainly it is a new operation that's only been in existence since October. We've used private ambulance services for the prior 50 years. So we are definitely a new kid on the block. I'm not speaking for the other two, 100% is a requirement. That doesn't mean that we don't have firefighters in our midst. We have 4 firefighters that work for us. We have others that are firefighters in non-volunteer services. But as the individual that would be responsible for the operation of the service, me personally, I can't have you out on a fire call when a 911 comes in, and I need the director of operations. And that's, if I have a firefighter, and I'm very good friends with our fire chief here in Fairfield. And our understanding is that when they're on duty as a firefighter, they're on duty as a firefighter. When they're on duty on the ambulance, they don't go fight fires.
Yeah, I understand that.
And so my question, I'm gonna reiterate Jack's question. It requires 100% commitment, first and foremost. We even have a policy in our handbook that, you know, if you have an external job, whether it's with another organization as a paramedic or an EMT or whatever, that we are your priority. So knowing that going in, again, I'm speaking for myself. I want to make that abundantly clear. That's my position. I don't, and you don't, there's no requirement for you to answer that question to me directly, but you can, that's where I'm coming from. So, you know, your paramedic level experience, I can't do anything that you've done. I wouldn't even pretend to try, but your paramedic level experience is a concern for me. And, you made the point, which I think was well taken, that you wouldn't ask anybody to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. And so are you feel that you can walk in and do the scheduling, work the truck, do the ordering, handle the billing? I don't know, how familiar are you with Iowa code regarding filing reports on incidences? You have to review all the reports that that the crews write up before they're submitted through Image Trend to the billing company, so on and so forth. So your take on that?
Well, I totally understand the 100% commitment. I've never had a full-time job that I've ever left to go answer a fire call. If work always came first, if it was needed at work, most volunteer departments were, oh, we understand your work comes first. I've always put my job before any of the volunteer stuff, or let's say the fire training bureau stuff is strictly as an as needed kind of a thing. If it falls on a day you're free, okay. They don't have any specific demands per se. I know it would take a little bit just to get up to speed on everything, and understand how all the different processes work here in Jefferson County. Obviously, like any job, there's going to be a little bit of time needed to be onboarded and whatnot, but I feel like I could get through it and come out the other side being ready to go.
So we do a lot of, by design, we do a lot of volunteer work, and some of it's contracted work. So we have folks, for example, sitting out at the fair during the, I don't know, the demo derbies, the quad races. You know, we have a rig usually sitting at high school football games, that sort of thing. And a lot of times those are crew members that are not on duty. In terms of the 911 crews at the time, very community oriented. I think that's tantamount and is a requirement. We go to Pekin football games. I don't know if you know where Pekin is, but
Yeah, vaguely.
okay. And so we're out in the middle of nowhere out there, and that's important too for those folks because they are out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
takes a while to get there. So my point is that one of the things that I expect anyway, and I think the others do as well, that while we have 2 full-time 24-hour crews working, there has been on occasion the need for a third truck. Somebody needs to be available for that third truck. And it's, you know, we have the luxury of having 3 trucks at this point, and so, and obviously everybody carries pagers, that sort of thing. So people respond. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't have any problem at all with all of the firefighting and that being your passion and your love. And I get that. And I'm not saying that there isn't or wouldn't be an opportunity for you to do that. And I'm sure that some of the rural fire departments in particular would love to have you. But from my perspective, this is horrible the way this is gonna sound, and I apologize for it. From my perspective, that's a hobby.
Yeah, no, I fully understand what you're saying. The job has to come first. If there's a need here, that has to be priority. I fully understand that and I agree with it.
Okay. I've beaten a dead horse here, and I'm sorry, but we just have worked too hard to bring this to fruition, to not have a total commitment.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you. All right. Any other questions that you've got?
Brian, how much notice do you need? When could you start if we do pick you?
I need to give it my current landlord at least a 30-day notice, so that puts us into, I don't know, second week of August, maybe somewhere in there. I've got some classes on the books already at the end of July that I feel I'm committed to, that I'm not gonna just walk out and say, not my problem anymore, because I've said I'll do them.
Joe too.
Well, if he wants to travel all the way up to South Dakota.
Leo go with. Yeah.
But
Could you
yeah.
take Lee with you?
We go to Sturgis while we're there.
I'm not going that far out,
Oh,
unfortunately.
Okay.
So yeah, that puts us probably, let's say, between giving notice to my current landlord and employer and finding a place down here, second week of August, middle of August, somewhere right in there is probably a fair and reasonable timeline.
So I'm gonna throw you under the proverbial rig one more time. What is your salary consideration?
I understand some of the concerns you have. I don't know that I have one necessarily. I know what your starting pay is. Not to give you a non-answer, but it would depend on what the offer is, as to whether or not I thought that was fair. And if I think it's fair, then
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Mhm. Do you have any questions for us?
not right offhand, I don't think.
Good. Anything else, Jack or Dr. Marino?
I do not.
Oh, I wanted to, I thought you had some good thoughts on protocol last time, and it sounded like you're kind of passionate about, getting some more functional protocols, up and going. And I wondered if you could talk to the other couple of members, or all of us, especially the people that weren't present when we talked to you the first time, kind of your thoughts on progressivity in that area.
So, yeah, when we talked before, I'd asked Dr. Marino about where the protocols stand in terms of operation. I did most of my paramedic field time over in the Des Moines metro area, and I got very used to, they're kind of on the leading edge of some of the protocols in Iowa. I'm not saying all their stuff is gotta be done, but there were certain things. Then when I moved up to the Cedar Falls area, I felt like I was stepping back in time. They were carrying meds that nobody's carrying. When you're as close to a hospital as we were, there was no reason. It was a waste of money to be carrying all these drugs that we never use and they just go bad. Or like the backboarding, like when I began my EMS career was a big deal. Everybody got thrown on a backboard. Now it's that they've stepped away because they understand that can be more harmful than good for a patient. And I went from, again, to the Des Moines area where you might use a backboard to move somebody, but then you take them right back off because they're not riding to the hospital on it. There's no reason for it. To up in the Cedar Falls area, the department I was on, they were still backboarding people regularly, and it was kind of a culture shock to me. And then just like Dr. Marino and I were talking about the CPR protocols. The newest trends in EMS are, and I'll use the phrase, I don't want to sound crude or anything, but if you get called out to a CPR in progress, you work it to a logical conclusion. We've tried this, we've tried this, we've tried this, we've tried this. We're still showing asystole and more than 2 leads on the monitor. there's probably not much more we can do for them. And this is the crude part of why are we transporting a dead person to a hospital? So the trend in EMS is you work the code on scene until you either get them to a point where they're viable for transport, or we have to call the ME in, basically. And that's just the way EMS is going, because with the risks and stuff of transporting bodies, especially in an emergent capacity, there's more often, according to the statistics that they put out there, there's more risk than reward to that. So that's the truth. And I was just simply asking about that as to see where Jefferson County lies, and understanding it's a new service, so you got to start somewhere. But just seeing about the opportunity to, can we look at these, and can we be a little more progressive, and can we make sure we're on the current, I'll call it trend in EMS research, that, hey, this is the way people are moving, and there are departments out there's no point in reinventing the wheel, that they've done that research, they put it into practice, and can we adapt what they have to what we have?
Yep, I'd like to, just for the record, and I am supportive of that. I am fully willing to hear you out and work on, getting some more progressive protocols in place. That's you would not, I'm not a barricade there. I would be absolutely your biggest cheerleader, and work with you in getting that, and getting some of those things accomplished.
So just so you know, for the record, since you haven't been out there, all our rigs are equipped with private cots.
Mhm.
And all of our drugs are housed at the hospital. And when we use a drug, we restock from the hospital.
Mhm.
So there's my term is probably not the technical term, but the chain of custody regarding the drugs. And
Yeah.
everybody signs here, this one signs here, this one signs here.
Yeah.
So all of those protocols are in place. We have about, I'm guessing, I don't know the exact number, Dr. Marino probably has a better idea than I know she does. We have somewhere around 500 pages of protocols.
Mhm.
And I didn't develop those protocols for sure. But they were, what we're looking for, they were developed through protocols from other services and so on and so forth. That doesn't mean that there can't be improvements, or like you say, times change. There's better ways of doing things today than there was in 1840. I get that, I
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
that. Anyway, we have Lucas devices and all 3 rigs, heart monitors. And don't ask me brand name, because I don't know, but I know they're all brand new. So anyway,
Very good. All right. I asked my questions when we did our Zoom, so I think we've pretty much covered everything. Yeah. So I guess, nobody has any more questions. That'll wrap this up. We're gonna have a really short supervisor meeting, and then we'll take you out and tour the ambulance space. If that's okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. And should we just stay on Zoom for our meeting? I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
would.
gonna, you're welcome to stay. It's-
I'll step out, let you conduct your meeting.
Oh, it's a public meeting. So we're gonna discuss and consider paid extra day off on July 5th for county employees.
you said that.
So moved.
Last week.
Lee,
What?
behave.
Okay.
Second. Okay, do we have any discussion?
I know Mark wanted to come talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You look deep in thought, Jack.
Well, the thing is here, and I kind of pursued these questions with him in the initial interview, but you folks are going to have to decide if that he's not willing to commit 100% to this position, is he your person? Because I heard him say that he's not sure he's willing to give up the fire service training or the volunteer firefighter stuff. And I just, I mean, that just bugs me.
Yeah. That was a big red flag.
We will have to cross that bridge and clear that when we get to that point. All right. Yeah, Mark. Thanks, Mark.
Oh, I was just curious what you guys were doing, and I didn't know, since I'm the one that brought it up.
Oh, we already
know if you
have a
guys had
motion
any-
in a second, and somebody said you wanted to talk, so you're just, you don't have anything you wanna say, or just,
Not other than
Yes.
what I
Okay.
didn't, since I'm the one that brought it up, I didn't know if you guys had any questions about my,
no, I think it's
Intent.
probably important that this was like a one-time thing, because we didn't give raises, and just to acknowledge that was the, the rationale. It's not like going to be a permanent extra holiday. Is
Oh,
that the
yeah, but
understanding?
I think we'll need to send out a memo to all of our department heads and elected officials to.
But, and what's that memo gonna say? Cause,
Lee,
Let's
that's
talk.
why we put it on the agenda to talk to today, so they could know before, because I
Right.
would hate for somebody to wait till Monday thinking they may or may not have the day
but what
off.
is that memo gonna say? Cause you open one,
We're
One-
closed Friday.
no, but how
what's the
about the
plan
people
for
that are,
the offices that are required to be open?
yeah, what about the 24/7 offices?
You mean like the ambulance?
Compensation,
Mhm.
meaning time.
I guess what I
Like a
would
comp
say
time or a floating holiday?
is, A, I don't know, B, it's kind of a. What's the word, a hybrid,
Mhm.
Jack. If you're not scheduled to work anyway. If you're not on the schedule to work, I don't know how that works.
So what we're talking about, Jack, is we didn't do raises this past year for employees effective July 1st. So, we were asked, would we consider giving people July 5th off as a holiday instead? But it's one thing to say, yeah, we're all for that. However, we all know that's a good example. If somebody's not already working July 5th, then do they get a different day? I mean, it's this whole chain of events. What about the people like the ambulance, the sheriff's department? They're on 24/7, so we would appreciate HR's input on that kind of thing.
Well, if you're gonna designate that July the 5th is a holiday, and then you have the people that's working is that, yeah, you're gonna have to figure out how to balance that out. If that's what you're gonna do. You see what I mean?
Yeah, Jack, my thought was to give the folks who are working on the 5th some compensatory time.
Right, okay, I mean,
Use some time during the year, and I would imagine that would be up to the departments.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, that addresses the issue of what I'm talking about, Susie, is that, you gotta do something for the other people, I mean, if you're gonna do that.
Right.
I'm not telling you there's anything wrong with that, don't take it
Yeah.
that way. I'm just telling you that you need to balance things out for the people that are working.
Yeah,
Logistically, could it be done in the auditor's office by basically giving everybody in the sheriff's and ambulance departments one extra vacation day?
Or a day's worth of comprehensive.
Or a
sorry,
comp time,
comp
would
time.
that
But
work?
you don't cut comp time enough, do you?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay, yeah.
Sure, I mean, either one of those,
monkeys
either
will
one
go.
of those is a compensation is fine in some way.
Okay, so. What?
Hey,
what
you
do
talk about me, Susie, and
We pay you? Do we pay you? I'm just curious.
well, I don't know, he's the
Hey,
treasurer.
You two, we have somebody to take on a tour, so let's focus
Oh.
right now, please.
This is why I didn't make fun of her.
So this is, here's what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong. If we have a motion in a second to give everybody a paid extra day off for July 5th. Right?
Yeah, fully realizing the folks that are already working on July 5th would then get a compensation for that by time.
If they were scheduled to work.
But my
They
question
get a
has got to
comp
go a little bit further than that. Because if they're not scheduled, they already have the day off. How do we handle that?
We have to give them a comp day because we have to
Comp day.
treat everybody fair.
You take like
Correct.
the roads department, for example, where they work 410s, or the assessor's office that work 410s. They're already getting Friday off.
Right.
So in order to be fair, do you give them,
8 hours comp time.
8 hours comp time.
Okay.
and that's my point, do you cap it?
Yeah.
Because they may work 410s, so are you giving them 10 hours of comp? Or are you just capping it at
8
say,
hours.
8?
8 hours.
Can we do that, Jack? Just give everybody 8 hours of
Right.
comp?
Yeah, you see, that's the situation you get into here when I'm talking about balancing the whole situation out, because then, you know, if that, you decide that you designate July 5th as a holiday, and then the people who that are working that day, and people that are off that day, you know, how do you address that?
And
How
just
do you,
more-
how would you suggest we do that?
How would I suggest?
Yeah,
I think that usually the simplest and less problematic way is that you do something for everybody, okay?
yeah, oh, yeah.
How is it any different than a regular holiday where someone's scheduled to work or not work?
Well, if they're scheduled to work a regular holiday, they get paid extra money.
But what if they're not scheduled? How could
Then
how
they
is
get-
this different?
Then they get 8 hours holiday pay, but Friday is not a holiday.
So can you just put 8 hours of holiday pay on the people that aren't working, just like a regular holiday where like Christmas or 4th of July?
So like a bonus, almost.
I don't know,
I don't know either.
See, that's where
because they're
this
getting
is,
the holiday pay.
You know, traditionally, and I don't, so traditionally, you work Fridays.
Yeah,
So to keep you from having to use vacation pay or vacation time to get paid for Friday. You know,
I'm just
even though
using
your
my
office,
time that
yeah,
day.
see, even though your office is closing, that doesn't mean you get paid.
yeah,
We're saying, okay, so if you wanted paid, you would use a vacation day. What I'm saying is that to keep you from having to use a vacation day, we'll pay you that day off. But if you're not working Friday, you're not using a vacation day.
but how does it work if somebody, like the 4th of July, that's a holiday?
Right.
What if somebody isn't scheduled to work and they've already made their hours for the week? How are they getting paid for that day? They're getting a holiday.
Yeah. Are we overcompensating this or overcomplicating this? We just eight.
Probably.
give it, how about if we just give everybody 8 hours of either time off or pay, pick one. Does that work?
I think by giving them a choice, it's also overcomplicated.
Yeah.
No,
I think if you save a lot of time and probably a lot of money in the long run, you just pay everybody 8 hours.
does that work, Jack?
Yeah, sure, if you want to do that, that's fine. I mean, you know,
Okay, I agree. Let's keep it simple, because as you can see, we can go down all these rabbit holes.
Yeah, and they found the rabbit.
More than one.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Let's amend the motion to discuss and consider what was the motion? To give everybody 8 hours of paid time off for July 5th, a one-time only appreciation.
In appreciation for the fact we could not and did not give
Raises
raises.
this year.
We, for one time, are going to pay you this.
Okay, I will second that.
And in the sheriff's department, because they saved a rabbit.
Okay, don't complicate it right now. Any more discussion?
I want a hook.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Abby, could you please write something up?
Sure,
Well, since you're taking notes,
yeah.
is that okay?
No rabbits.
you had a week to do
Send it
that.
to
Wants a
me.
hook. Yeah,
Right,
one
Wait,
of them.
okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? And
Oh,
then I
yeah.
want to take Brian out and tour him.
Yeah, that's fine, and it's
Do you want to take him out?
not particularly,
Okay.
no. But the question I had, there's another question I have, and now I'm completely.
What did it have to do with the rabbit? The
No,
interview?
actually,
For the
it
paid
didn't have
time
anything
off.
to do with the rabbit, and it didn't have anything to do with paid time off, but it was it was an important issue, but evidently not important enough for me. to
Okay, let's
remember what
adjourn,
that
because I
was.
don't feel comfortable having him wait too long for us.
No, that's fine, yeah. you go
Thank you
ahead.
guys very much. I think that's a really nice olive branch that you extended out to the staff.
Thank you.
So that's very cool.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
I already did it.
All right,
okay.
Yes, I said, oh,
second, all
yeah.
in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right,
You motioned and seconded, huh?
If I slapped him, you wouldn't be a witness, right?
hi, Jack, did you have any
Sounds
other
so
words of
fast to
wisdom
me.
for
I
us?
know.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I think we're done, but we
Okay.
appreciate your
Totally.
participation and your comments, quite valid. Thank you.
All right, okay. Let me know if you need anything from me, okay?
All right, thanks, bye.
Thanks, Jack.